$28 million in helicopters sat beneath three red X's. At 11:47 that morning, demolition crews were already waiting beside them. The billionaire who owned the aircraft had signed the destruction order herself. Her aviation director said all three machines were finished. Two engineering teams agreed. An insurance inspector had written the same word across every report. Uneconomical. Then a single father in faded work clothes walked onto the flight line carrying a dented metal toolbox. He had already been fired once that morning. He had no company badge, no executive title, and according to the people watching, no business being anywhere near those helicopters. But none of them knew why he had stopped beside the first aircraft. None of them knew what he had noticed, and none of them knew what his name had once meant inside the company that designed those machines. By noon, Mara Ellison would know. So would everyone else standing on that field. If you have ever watched someone get judged before they were given a chance, stay with Eli Mercer. At 6:12 that morning, Eli was fixing a broken baggage tug. It had been raining before sunrise. Not hard, just enough to leave the concrete dark and slick beneath the hangar lights. The Ellison Ridge Aviation Center sat outside Bend, Oregon, where the high desert met pine-covered hills and the mountains seemed to rise straight out of the horizon. The place was enormous. 6 hangars, 3 maintenance buildings, a private terminal, fuel farms, security gates, a polished glass administration building, and beyond all of it, separated behind a yellow line painted across the ramp, 3 helicopters that had not flown in months. Eli had noticed them his first day. Everyone noticed them. They were too expensive not to. 3 Falcon HX-9 twin-engine utility helicopters. Large, fast, built for mountains, bad weather, wildfire support, and remote industrial work. Each one cost more than most people would earn in several lifetimes. And each one now carried a red canvas cover across its cockpit with the same white lettering. Grounded. Do not operate. Eli tightened a bolt beneath the tug. He wiped rainwater from his cheek with the back of his wrist. Then he heard voices behind him. That one too, a woman's voice. Calm, firm, used to being obeyed. Eli stayed beneath the tug. Another voice answered. All 3? All 3. Mara, that's almost $30 million in original acquisition cost. Original cost doesn't matter if they can't fly. Eli stopped turning the wrench. He knew the woman's name before he saw her. Everyone at Ellison Ridge knew Mara Ellison. 52 years old. Founder of Ellison Resource Group. Mining, energy, construction, logistics, private aviation. Depending on which magazine someone believed, she was worth somewhere between $4 and $6 billion. She had built most of it herself. She had also built a reputation for ending conversations quickly. Eli slid out from beneath the tug. Mara stood 30 feet away. Dark coat, black trousers, hair pulled back, no umbrella. Rain sat on her shoulders as if the weather had also failed to impress her. Beside her stood Victor Kane, director of aviation operations. Victor wore a tailored flight jacket that had probably never touched grease. Behind them walked 2 men carrying tablets. One was from finance. The other was from the salvage company. Victor pointed toward the helicopters. Aircraft 1 has intermittent control system faults. Aircraft 2 has dual-channel failures. Aircraft 3 won't complete startup checks. And you've replaced the computers? Twice. Hydraulic units? Inspected and replaced where necessary. Wiring? Engineering went through it. Mara looked at the 3 helicopters, then we're done. Victor hesitated. The manufacturer may still send another team. They've sent 2. They offered another diagnostic visit for another $400,000. Victor said nothing. Mara continued. We have spent $1.8 million trying to recover these aircraft. I know. They have been grounded for 7 months. Yes, and Monday I have a board meeting where I explain why we are storing $28 million of unusable equipment while paying for replacements. Victor lowered his voice. The replacement contract solves that. Mara looked at him. Does it? 3 new aircraft. Factory support. 5-year maintenance package. $31 million. 29 after trade credit. For machines we're cutting apart. Victor nodded toward the 3 grounded helicopters. They're dead, Mara. Eli looked at aircraft 2. Then aircraft 1. Then back again. Something bothered him. He could not name it yet. A small detail, maybe nothing. He turned toward the tug. Mercer. Victor's voice stopped him. Eli looked back. Yes? Victor pointed at the baggage tug. Why isn't that running? Because the starter cable melted through the insulation. How long? 10 minutes. You've already had 20. It took 12 to find the real problem. Victor stared at him. Then perhaps you should spend less time looking at aircraft you're not qualified to touch. Eli said nothing. Mara's eyes moved toward him. Just once. Work boots. Wet coveralls. Old toolbox. Temporary contractor badge. She looked away. Victor seemed satisfied. He turned back toward the helicopters. The salvage crew wants access at 11:30. Give it to them, Mara said. All 3? I said all 3. Eli looked at aircraft 1 again. The helicopter sat nose down slightly because the front strut pressure had bled off. Rainwater ran along its fuselage. A white maintenance tag hung behind the cockpit window. The tag twisted in the wind. Eli could only read part of it. Channel B fault. Then it flipped. Another line appeared. Control unit replaced. Eli frowned. Victor noticed. Something interesting? Eli looked at him. Maybe. Victor smiled. Not kindly. Then keep it to yourself. Eli went back beneath the baggage tug. He should have forgotten the helicopters. He had other problems. Plenty of them. The tug needed to run by 7. His temporary contract ended Friday. The landlord wanted an answer by Wednesday. Nora had a school meeting at 4, and the envelope inside Eli's truck contained a notice he had not yet figured out how to explain to his daughter. 30 days. That was how long they had before they needed another place to live. He turned the wrench. Once, twice, then stopped again. Channel B control unit replaced. 3 aircraft. Different failures. Same fleet. His mind did something he had spent years training it not to do. It went backward, not emotionally. Mechanically, fault, cause, sequence, pattern, he could almost see the system diagram. Power in. Signal out. Ground path. Redundant channel. Protection logic. He closed his eyes. For 1 second he was somewhere else. A bright factory floor. A prototype aircraft without interior panels. Wires hanging in neat bundles. Engineers arguing. A test card clipped beside his knee. Someone saying, Mercer, tell me why it won't clear. Eli opened his eyes. He tightened the final connection. Then he slid from beneath the tug. Try it. The young ramp worker sitting in the driver's seat turned the key. The tug coughed. Started, settled into a steady idle. The young man grinned. There she is. Eli packed his tools. Don't run it with the panel loose. Got it. Have maintenance replace the whole cable this afternoon. I only cut out the damaged section. Your maintenance. Not for much longer. The young man looked at him. What? Nothing. Eli closed his toolbox. Across the ramp, Mara Ellison was walking toward the administration building. Victor followed. Eli looked at the helicopters again. This time he saw something else. A patch of clean metal. Tiny, almost invisible, near an access panel below Aircraft 1's cabin. The rest of the area was stained from months outside. That one spot was clean. Someone had been inside recently. Very recently. Eli stood still. Then the ramp worker said, You okay? Eli picked up his toolbox. Yeah, he wasn't. At 7:03, Eli clocked out of the first maintenance job and drove toward the contractor trailer. His truck was 16 years old. The heater only worked on high. The passenger window rattled above 50 miles an hour. A small paper helicopter hung from the rearview mirror. Nora had made it from blue construction paper. One wing said Dad. The other said Nora. She had drawn 3 crooked stars across the tail. Eli touched it with one finger before starting the truck. His phone rang. "Nora," he answered immediately. "Morning, Bug. I'm not a bug. You've been a bug since you were 3. I'm 9 now. Very mature. I have responsibilities." "That so?" "Yes, what kind?" There was a pause, finding my other shoe. Eli smiled. "Under the couch." I looked. Behind the couch. Another pause. Then footsteps. Then, how do you always know? Advanced father training. You don't have advanced training. Eli looked through the windshield at the 3 Falcon helicopters. His smile faded a little. Maybe not. Nora's voice softened. "Are you picking me up today?" 4 o'clock. "Promise?" "Promise." "We have the meeting. I remember. Mrs. Garner said you need to sign the form. I'll sign it. And we have to talk about next year." "I know." Nora hesitated. "Dad? Yeah? Are we moving again?" The question landed harder than it should have. Eli looked down. The white envelope rested beside him. Notice of termination of tenancy. He had folded it twice, as if making it smaller might make it less real. "Why'd you ask that?" "Mr. Larkin was measuring outside yesterday." Eli closed his eyes. "Their landlord." "So?" And there was a sign. "What sign?" "Commercial property redevelopment." Eli leaned back. Nora was 9. She read everything. He sometimes forgot that. "Dad, I'm here. Are we?" Eli took a slow breath. "I don't know yet. You said Ben could be home." "It can." "You said I wouldn't have to change schools again." "I remember what I said." "Did you mean it?" That hurt more. Every word. Silence, then Nora said, "Okay." Eli looked toward the mountains. The clouds were lifting. "You worry about your missing shoe. I found it." Then breakfast. I already had cereal. Actual breakfast. Cereal is actual breakfast. Debatable. She laughed. A small sound. Exactly what he needed. "I'll see you at 4. Promise?" "Promise. I love you. Love you more." Impossible, the line disconnected. Eli sat there another moment. Then he picked up the housing notice. The property had been sold. The old hangar apartment where he and Nora lived would become office space. He had 30 days. Rent in Bend had climbed beyond what his current jobs could support. He could move 45 miles away, maybe 60. Nora would lose her school, her friends, her teacher, the counselor who had helped her through the year after Rachel died. Another new bedroom, another new route, another place where she would wake at night and need several seconds to remember where she was. Eli had promised her they were done running. He intended to keep it. He just had no idea how. His contractor job at Ellison Ridge paid well, but it was temporary. Equipment repair, ground vehicles, doors, generators, anything except aircraft. Victor Kane had made that last part clear on Eli's first morning. "You don't touch aircraft." Eli had nodded. "Understood, not even a panel." "Understood, you see a loose screw, call someone." Eli had almost smiled. He hadn't. Victor never asked why. Most people didn't. Eli's URSUM listed small engine repair, industrial maintenance, and fleet service. Nothing before 6 years ago. Nothing about Falcon rotor systems. Nothing about experimental flight operations. Nothing about the HX-9 program. Nothing about the 4 years Eli had spent inside prototype hangars, where every mistake was documented and every assumption was challenged. Nothing about his airframe and power plant licenses. Nothing about his inspection authorization. Nothing about his commercial rotorcraft certificate. Nothing about 3,912 logged helicopter hours. And nothing about the accident investigation that had ended that life. Not because Eli had caused the accident. He hadn't. But because someone had asked him to sign something untrue afterward. He had refused. The refusal cost him more than he expected. 6 months later, Rachel got sick. The fight with his employer stopped mattering. Everything stopped mattering except her. Then Nora. Then keeping both of them afloat. Eli had not flown professionally since. He rarely talked about it. Nora knew he used to work on helicopters. She did not understand exactly what that meant. Most people at Ellison Ridge knew nothing. One person might have. Theo Brandt. Theo ran parts control, 63. Gray beard. Former military mechanic. He watched too much and spoke too little. At 7:28, Eli found him drinking coffee beside the parts cage. Theo looked at the toolbox in Eli's hand. You staring at the Falcons again? Eli stopped. No, Theo drank. You are a terrible liar. Eli glanced toward the open hangar door. No one's supposed to be discussing them. Good thing I'm asking about the weather. Eli leaned against the wall. How long have they really been down? Theo studied him. You heard Victor. I heard the version for Mara. Theo's eyes narrowed. Why do you care? I don't. Second terrible lie. Eli said nothing. Theo lowered his coffee. Aircraft 1 went down 7 months ago. Control fault? Started that way. 2, 5 months. 3, 4, same maintenance vendor? Theo stopped moving. That answer was enough. Eli continued. Same component changes? You're not aircraft staff. I know. So why are you asking? Because 3 separate aircraft don't usually decide to die the same way. They weren't the same failures. Maybe. What did you see? Eli looked toward the ramp. A tag. Theo waited. That's it? And a clean access panel. Theo almost laughed. Jesus, what? You still do it. Do what? Look at machines like they're lying to you. Eli stared at him. Theo's expression changed. You don't remember me. Should I? Falcon Certification Hangar, Wichita, 2012. Eli searched his face. Younger, no beard. Different uniform, then it came back. Theo Brandt. Theo smiled. Took you long enough. You were on supplier quality. 3 miserable years. Eli looked away. Theo nodded slowly. I knew it was you the first morning. You didn't say anything. Figured if you wanted people to know, they'd know. I appreciate that. Theo looked toward the grounded aircraft. You really think something's wrong? Something is always wrong. You know what I mean. Eli lowered his voice. Why were 3 control units replaced? Theo's face went still. How did you know that? Tag, only one tag says that. Victor said twice. Theo put down the coffee. Eli, what? Leave it. Why? Because you're 2 days from finishing your contract, and Victor already doesn't like you. I don't care if Victor likes me. You care if he signs your last invoice. Eli's jaw tightened. Theo continued. You've got a kid, right? Yeah, then be a dad. Fix ground equipment. Get paid. Go home. Eli picked up his toolbox. That's the plan. Theo caught his arm. Mercer. Eli looked back. Theo spoke quietly. Aircraft 2 got a replacement control module 6 weeks ago. Okay, it never left the ground after installation. Eli waited. Aircraft 1 got one too. And? Same? 3? Theo looked away. I never received a replacement unit for 3. Eli stopped breathing for a second. But the paperwork says it was replaced? Theo nodded. Invoice came through. How much? $412,000 for a unit you never received. I flagged it. To who? Victor, what happened? He told me the vendor shipped directly to field maintenance. Did they? I asked field maintenance. And? They never saw it. Eli stared toward the aircraft. Theo, I told you to leave it. That's over $1 million in modules. I can count. Did finance know? I don't know. Did Mara? Theo gave him a look. If Mara Ellison knew, do you think those helicopters would still be sitting there? Eli set his toolbox down. You have serial records? Yes. Receiving logs? Yes. Work orders? Yes. Can I see them? No. Theo, no. Why? Because you don't work on the aircraft. I'm not asking to work on them. You're asking me for restricted maintenance records. I'm asking whether 3 machines are being scrapped because somebody wants them called dead. Theo looked at him for several seconds. Then footsteps approached. Victor Kane entered through the side door. His eyes moved from Theo to Eli, then to Eli's toolbox on the floor. Am I interrupting? Theo picked up his coffee. No. Victor looked at Eli. Your next assignment is Building 3. I know. Then why are you here? Needed a fuse. For what? Loading door. Victor looked toward Theo. Did you give him one? Theo pointed toward a bin. Victor did not move. You have a habit of wandering, Mercer. Eli picked up the fuse. I'll keep track of myself. See that you do. Victor stepped closer. Because your contract can end before Friday. Eli met his eyes. Victor smiled. Do we understand each other? Perfectly. Eli walked away. He felt Victor watching him until he turned the corner. By 8:10, the rain had stopped. Mara Ellison stood inside the executive conference room looking at a contract worth $31.2 million. Victor sat across from her. The replacement aircraft sales representative sat beside him. Mara hated rushed decisions. She hated trapped decisions more. Her company had signed a 3-year wildfire support contract covering Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. The aviation division had promised 6 heavy utility helicopters. 3 were available. 3 were grounded. Fire season was 8 weeks away. Her board had already questioned the aviation division's losses. Her lenders had questioned them too. A failed fleet recovery would force Ellison Resource Group to lease aircraft at emergency rates. That could cost $12 million over one season. The new aircraft contract looked ugly, but clean. Predictable. Factory-backed. Insurable. Victor slid a pen toward her. We signed by noon. They hold the production slots. Mara looked at the contract. And the 3 Falcons? Salvage credit is included. How much? $1.9 million. For all 3. Yes, Mara looked through the conference room glass. Far below, the aircraft sat on the ramp. $28 million purchased. Victor said nothing. $1.8 million spent attempting recovery. Nothing, and now $1.9 million back. Sometimes you stop feeding a bad decision. Mara looked at him. That's my line. Victor smiled. I've learned from the best. Mara did not smile. Her father had taught her something different. Her father had run a logging company with 7 trucks. He repaired everything until repairing it became stupidity. Then he sold it. Not a day sooner. Mara had spent 20 years telling herself she inherited his discipline. But she also remembered another part of him. He trusted people too long. An accountant stole from him. A business partner abandoned him. A bank nearly took their house. Mara had been 16. She learned what misplaced trust cost. So she built systems. Titles, reports, audits, experts. She believed numbers because people had motives. Victor had run her aviation division for 5 years. He had a strong record. He had expanded the fleet, reduced accident rates, negotiated lower insurance premiums. He was also the man recommending that she stop throwing money at 3 aircraft nobody could fix. She picked up the pen. Then someone knocked. Her assistant entered. Sorry, what? Salvage team needs authorization for component removal before the airframes are transferred. Mara signed the bottom of the disposal order. Done. Her assistant took it. Victor exhaled. Good, Mara looked at him. We haven't signed your replacement contract. No, don't celebrate early. I wasn't. You were. Victor leaned back. Fair. Mara stood. I want the flight line cleared by 11:30. I don't want salvage crews mixing with operations. Already arranged. And Victor? Yes? Get me every recovery invoice on those 3 aircraft. He paused. Barely, of course. I want them before the board meeting Monday. I'll have finance compile them. I said you. Victor nodded. Done. At 8:34, Eli opened the loading door at Building 3. The motor groaned. The chain jumped. He shut it down immediately. A facilities supervisor stood behind him. Motor shot? No gearbox? No what then? Door sensor. That's it? It thinks the door is already open. The supervisor shook his head. Everything around here thinks it's something it isn't. Eli looked toward the flight line. Yeah, his phone buzzed. A text from Nora. Found both shoes. Below it was a picture of her feet. 2 different socks. Eli smiled. Then another text arrived. Please don't forget 4. He typed, I won't. He put the phone away. Behind him, a maintenance cart rolled past carrying components from the grounded helicopters. Eli saw a black rectangular unit strapped to the cart, a control module. He stepped aside. The technician pushing the cart was young, maybe 26. Her name patch read Leah Torres. Eli pointed. Where's that going? Leah stopped. Scrap evaluation. From which aircraft? She looked at him. Why? Curious. You Victor's new spy? No, then aircraft 1. Failed? According to everybody with a better office than mine. Eli stepped closer but did not touch it. The unit looked old. Dust in the corners. Paint rubbed near one mounting ear. A small serial plate sat on the side. Eli read the last 4 digits. Something moved in his memory. The replacement? Leah laughed once. Supposedly, how long was it installed? 6 weeks. Eli pointed without touching. That wear didn't happen in 6 weeks. Leah's smile disappeared. You aircraft maintenance? No, then you should probably forget you saw it. Probably. She started pushing. Eli said, what serial was removed? Leah stopped again. Excuse me? Old unit. Don't know. Check the work card. You really aren't aircraft maintenance? No. Who are you? Eli, I can read. She tapped his badge. What are you? Eli looked at the control unit. Tired, Leah stared, then laughed despite herself. Good answer. She pushed the cart away. Eli watched it disappear into the hangar. At 8:49, Victor received a message from Leah. Ground contractor asking about Aircraft 1 control module serial. Victor read it twice, then stood. At 8:53, Eli heard Victor behind him. Office, Eli turned. Victor pointed. Now the facility supervisor glanced between them. Eli put down his wrench. Victor's office overlooked the maintenance floor. Glass walls, awards, photographs, aircraft models. One framed article called him the man who modernized Ellison Air. Victor closed the door. What exactly are you doing? Fixing a loading door. Don't. Don't what? Be clever. Eli stood still. Victor put both hands on his desk. You asked one of my technicians about a restricted aircraft component. It rolled past me. You read its serial number. It was facing me. You asked where it came from. Conversation, you're a ground equipment contractor. I know. So explain why you're asking questions about my aircraft. Eli considered lying. He decided not to. Because your paperwork doesn't make sense. Victor's face changed. Only a little. What paperwork? The maintenance tag. You have not seen our paperwork. I saw one tag. And from that, you've decided what? Nothing yet. Victor walked around the desk. Then stop. Okay, Victor blinked. He had expected an argument. Eli continued. I won't ask your technicians anything else. Good. But if you're scrapping 3 aircraft because of faulty control units, you should verify the serials. Victor stared at him. Get out. Eli turned. Victor said, Mercer. Eli stopped. You think because you can repair a generator you're an aviation engineer? No. You think the people who looked at those Falcons are idiots? No. Then what exactly do you think? Eli looked back. I think good people can spend months chasing the wrong problem. Victor's jaw tightened. And I think 3 helicopters failing separately with related symptoms deserves one question. What question? What's common? Victor did not answer. Eli opened the door. Victor said, Your contract is terminated. Eli stopped. Effective now. Because I asked a question? Because you crossed operational boundaries after being warned. I never touched an aircraft. You interfered with aviation maintenance personnel. I asked Leah where a box came from. Turn in your badge. Eli looked at Victor for a long moment, then unclipped it, placed it on the desk. Victor nodded toward the door. Security will escort you off property. Eli's voice remained level. You don't need security. I wasn't asking. 10 minutes later, Eli crossed the ramp with a security officer walking beside him. He carried his toolbox in one hand, his lunch bag in the other. Nobody said anything. Ground crews watched. Leah looked down. Theo stood behind the parts counter. His expression told Eli everything. I warned you. Eli kept walking. He passed aircraft 3, then 2, then 1. Near aircraft 1, he slowed. The security officer said, keep moving. Eli did. Then he saw the replacement contract folder through the glass conference room doors. Victor had left it on a rolling cart near the aircraft. The sales representative was talking with Mara. A logo covered the folder, North Star Rotor Solutions. Eli knew the name. He stopped again. The security officer sighed. Sir, North Star, what? Eli looked toward Theo. Theo was watching. Eli called across the ramp. Theo, Victor came out of the hangar. Keep him moving. Theo did not respond. Eli raised his voice. Who performed the control retrofit? Theo froze. Victor started walking faster. Eli, leave. Theo looked at Victor, then at Eli. Eli repeated it. Who performed the retrofit? Victor's voice hardened. Security. The officer took Eli's arm. Eli did not resist. Theo finally answered. North Star. Everything inside Eli became very still. When? Victor reached them. That's enough. Eli looked at Theo. Before the first fault? Theo's eyes moved toward Victor. Victor said, do not answer him. Theo's silence answered anyway. Eli turned to Victor. You didn't replace 3 bad computers. Victor stepped close. You have no idea what you're talking about. You installed the same modification across all 3 aircraft. Leave, and after that, all 3 developed related faults. They developed separate faults. Because the system reports downstream. Victor's face tightened. Eli looked toward the aircraft. The computers aren't dead. Mara Ellison had walked out of the conference room. She had heard the last sentence. What did you say? The ramp became quiet. Eli looked at her. Victor spoke first. Mara, he's a terminated facilities contractor. I asked him. Eli nodded toward the helicopters. I said I don't think the computers are dead. Mara studied him. You've inspected them? No, you've reviewed their maintenance records? No, you've connected test equipment? No, then your opinion is based on what? Pattern? Victor scoffed. Mara ignored him. What pattern? Eli knew he should stop. He had no job, no authority, no records, no proof. Nora needed him employed. Not righteous, not right. Employed, he could still leave. Find another contract. Take the long commute. Break the promise. Start over. Then he looked at the helicopters. $30 million being destroyed. Possibly because somebody had hidden the real problem. He thought of his father, not the man who raised him, the man who had taught him machines. Daniel Mercer could diagnose a hydraulic pump by sound. He also carried one rule through every shop he worked in. Expensive failure gets expensive attention. Simple failure gets ignored. Eli looked at Mara. All 3 aircraft were modified by the same vendor. Mara glanced at Victor. Victor said, that is not unusual. Eli continued. All 3 developed control system faults after the modification. At different times. Yes, with different codes. Yes, Mara crossed her arms. So? Computers tell you where the system noticed the problem. Not always where the problem started. Victor laughed. This is ridiculous. Eli looked at him. Then proving me wrong should be easy. Victor stopped laughing. Mara noticed. What modification? Victor answered. Standard avionics interface update. Performed by North Star? Yes, the same company selling us replacements? Victor paused. They're the regional distributor. Mara's eyes stayed on him. That wasn't my question. Yes, the sales representative stepped back. Mara looked at Eli. And you believe the modification caused the faults? I believe it's common to all 3. That is not the same thing. No, what would you need to know? Maintenance records, installation drawings, serial history. Victor shook his head. Absolutely not. Mara turned. Why? Because he is not an employee. He has no aviation authorization. He was just terminated for interfering with maintenance. Mara looked at Eli. Is that true? Mostly? I asked a mechanic about a serial number. Mara's eyes narrowed. Why? Because a control unit removed from Aircraft 1 looked older than the paperwork said. Victor stepped forward. That is speculation. Maybe. Mara looked at Victor. Get me the serial record. Mara now nobody moved for a second. Then Mara pointed toward the administration building. Conference room. 10 minutes. She looked at Eli. You too. Victor's face hardened. He isn't cleared. Then clear him. Mara. 10 minutes. She walked away. The security officer slowly released Eli's arm. Eli looked at Theo. Theo mouthed 2 words. Be careful. At 9:19, Eli sat at a conference table worth more than his truck. He felt out of place, not intimidated, just visible. His coveralls carried a grease mark across one knee. His boots left faint damp marks on the carpet. Across from him sat Mara, Victor, 2 maintenance managers, Leah, Theo, a finance analyst, and North Star's sales representative, Patrick Sloan. A stack of digital maintenance records appeared on the wall screen. Mara looked at Eli. You have 15 minutes. Victor said, This is absurd. Mara did not look at him. 14 minutes and 50 seconds. Victor closed his mouth. Eli leaned forward. Aircraft 1 first. The maintenance manager opened the file. Initial fault occurred January 12th. What was it? Control channel B intermittent. Then? Troubleshooting harness check. Sensor replacement. Control module replacement. Serial removed? The manager clicked. Theo leaned forward. 741 Eli looked at Leah. Leah's eyes widened. That's the unit we removed this morning. Nobody spoke. Mara turned toward Victor. You replaced 741 Victor frowned. According to this, and 741 is currently still in the aircraft? Leah said quietly it was. Victor turned. That cannot be right. Theo spoke. It is. Patrick Sloan from North Star cleared his throat. Serial entry errors happen. Eli nodded. They do. Patrick seemed relieved. Eli continued. Aircraft 2. The record opened. Initial fault, channel A synchronization. Module replacement, yes. Serial removed. 6112 installed. 9034. Theo interrupted. We never received 9034. Victor looked at him. You told me that unit shipped direct. That's what you told me. Patrick sat straighter. Mara looked at the finance analyst. Invoice? The analyst searched. 408,000 paid Aircraft 3. The maintenance manager opened the final file. Control startup disagreement. Module? Replacement build. Serial? A pause. No installation serial entered. Mara's gaze moved to Patrick. How much? Finance answered. 412,000. Mara's voice became very soft. Was it delivered? Patrick said, I would need to check North Star's shipping system. Do that. I don't have access from. Get access. Patrick pulled out his phone. Victor rubbed his forehead. This is an administrative issue. It does not mean the aircraft are repairable. Eli nodded. He's right. Everyone looked at him. Victor blinked. Eli continued. Bad invoices don't make aircraft good. Mara leaned back. So we're still where we started? No. Why not? Because now we know the diagnosis may be contaminated. Contaminated? People trusted replacement records that may not be real. Victor said, the aircraft still failed. Yes, and trained mechanics could not clear them. Yes, so what are you suggesting? Eli looked toward the screen. Show me the North Star modification. The maintenance manager pulled up the engineering package. Eli read slowly, not because he struggled, because he remembered HX9 electrical architecture, primary control buses, isolation circuits, bonding points, redundant channels. Some of it had been revised since his years at Falcon. Most had not. He saw the North Star installation, new communication interface, mounting plate, additional shielded harness, ground connection. His eyes stopped. There, A note. Surface preparation PER North Star Standard ENS 44. He pointed. What's ENS 44? Patrick looked up from his phone. Standard corrosion protection. What does it use? I'd have to ask engineering. Conductive primer? I don't know. Eli looked at the maintenance manager. Do you? No, Victor said. Where are you going with this? Eli looked at Mara. These aircraft need clean electrical bonding between components and airframe. Mara waited. The North Star plate sits across a bonding path. Patrick shook his head. That is not accurate. Maybe not. It isn't. Then show me NS-44. Patrick's face tightened. It's proprietary. Mara stared at him. You installed proprietary material on my aircraft and won't tell me what it is? That's not what I meant. Then choose better words. Patrick started typing. Eli looked toward Theo. You still have the removed hardware? Theo nodded. From some mounting plate? Probably. Victor slammed his palm lightly against the table. No, everyone looked at him. He lowered his voice. We are not turning this facility into an amateur investigation because a contractor saw a dirty box. Mara watched him. Victor continued. We have a signed disposal order. We have a replacement deadline. We have independent engineering conclusions. Eli said, Independent? Victor looked at him. Yes. Who hired them? We did. Who selected them? Victor's eyes narrowed. I did. Who gave them the maintenance history? My department, which included replacement modules that may never have been replaced. Victor stood. That's it. Mara spoke. Sit down. Victor stared at her. Sit. He did. Eli felt the room change, not in his favor. Not yet. But away from Victor. Patrick's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. Mara said, well? Patrick swallowed. North Star records show 9034 shipped. Theo asked, where? Patrick read. Ellison Ridge. Receiving signature? Patrick scrolled. He stopped. Mara waited. Patrick said nothing. Whose signature? He looked at Victor. V. Kane. Theo leaned back. Victor's face went pale. That means I acknowledge transfer. Theo said, you aren't authorized receiving. Victor snapped, I can sign for company property. Not through the cage. I was helping expedite an AOG shipment. Where is the unit? Victor looked at him. I don't know. Mara folded her hands. Find it. Victor stood again. Mara, this is becoming a circus. No, a circus has better accounting. Eli almost smiled. He didn't. Mara turned toward him. You said you need to inspect the modification. Yes, can you do that? Victor immediately answered. He cannot. Mara looked at Eli. Are you licensed? He hesitated. There it was. The door he had kept closed. He could lie. He could say no. He could walk. Instead, he reached for his wallet. Behind his driver's license sat 2 cards. Old, protected in plastic. He slid them across the table. Mara picked them up. She read, airframe and power plant. Then the second, inspection authorization. Victor stared. Mara looked at Eli. You told us you were facilities maintenance. I am. You didn't tell us this. Nobody asked. Victor leaned over. When were these issued? Years ago. Current? Yes. Recent aviation employment? No, Victor almost smiled. Mara caught it. What's funny? Nothing, then don't. She looked at Eli again. When did you last sign off an HX-9? Never, Victor's smile returned. Eli continued. Production aircraft didn't exist yet. Mara stopped. Nobody spoke. Eli wished he had phrased it differently. Too late. Mara said, explain. Eli looked at the table. I worked at Falcon Rotor Systems during certification. The maintenance manager leaned forward. Doing what? Flight test maintenance. Theo said nothing. He already knew. Eli continued. Prototype support. Systems troubleshooting. Inspection. Victor's voice became skeptical. You were a mechanic. Yes, not an engineer. No, Patrick said. Falcon had hundreds of mechanics. Yes, Mara watched Eli. How many HX-9 prototypes? 6 flying, 2 ground test frames. The maintenance manager said, "How many did you work on?" "All 8. Victor leaned back. "Convenient," Eli looked at him. "You asked." Mara placed the licenses down. "Why isn't any of that on the URSUM you gave us?" "Because I wasn't applying to work on aircraft. Why leave it off?" Eli did not answer. Mara waited. There was an accident. Victor seized it. An accident. Eli looked at him. "Yes, on an HX-9, prototype 4. Fatal? No. Cause? Multiple factors. Were you involved?" "I was the lead flight test mechanic." Victor sat back. "There it is." Mara's gaze stayed on Eli. "What happened?" Eli looked toward the helicopters outside. "Not today." Victor laughed once. "You're asking us to trust your judgment while refusing to explain why you left the program. I'm asking you to inspect a bonding surface." "Same thing." "No," Mara spoke. "It is close." Eli looked at her. She continued. "You came onto my property under a URSUM that excluded the most relevant part of your work history. I came to repair generators. You challenged my aviation director. After seeing something wrong, you refused to explain your own history. Because it isn't relevant to the fault. Trust is relevant." That word hit Eli. "Trust," he stood. "Then don't trust me." Mara frowned. Eli continued. "Trust the aircraft." He pointed toward the hangar. "Pull the modification plate from aircraft 1. Inspect the contact surface. Compare it to the original engineering drawing." Victor said, "And if there's nothing, scrap them." Mara studied him. "All 3? That's your decision." "No, yours." Eli looked at her. She was testing him now. "If you're so certain, give me the answer." "I'm not certain." That surprised her. Victor smirked. Eli said, "Anyone who tells you they're certain before inspecting is selling you something." Patrick shifted uncomfortably. Mara noticed. Eli continued. "I think the modification is worth checking." "How long?" 20 minutes. Victor said, "Mara, we have." She raised one hand. Victor stopped. Mara looked at Eli. 20. At 9:51, Aircraft 1 entered the maintenance hangar. Nobody started it. Nobody energized anything. The aircraft was moved under tow. Eli stood beside Leah and the maintenance manager while Victor watched from 10 feet away. Mara stayed too. Eli did not touch the helicopter until the manager handed him written authorization. "Limited inspection," the manager said. "Understood, no operational check." "Understood, no component removal beyond the North Star interface plate." "Understood," Victor muttered. He understands everything. Eli ignored him. Leah opened the access area. The modification plate sat beneath a protective cover. Eli looked at the hardware, then at the drawing. Something felt familiar. He opened his old toolbox. Inside were ordinary tools. Wrenches, pliers, sockets, inspection light, safety wire. Nothing impressive. Under the top tray sat a flat red notebook. Its cover was faded almost brown. A strip of tape across the front read D. Mercer, Leah noticed. "Your dad?" "Yeah, he worked for Falcon." "Before me." Eli opened the notebook. Handwritten diagrams filled the pages. Old measurements, dates, small notes. Some in his father's handwriting, some in Eli's. Daniel Mercer had spent 32 years in aircraft maintenance. He had worked on the HX-9 prototype program during its earliest ground tests. When he retired, he gave Eli the notebook. "Most machines warn you," Daniel had said. "Problem is, people listen to the expensive parts first." Eli turned to a page near the back. A rough sketch showed a mounting plate. Beside it were 4 handwritten words. "Check bond after coating." Eli stared. Leah leaned closer. "What is that?" "Something we learned the hard way." "When?" "Prototype 2. He looked at the North Star plate. "Remove it." The maintenance manager did. The plate lifted. Underneath was a smooth layer of dark gray protective coating. Unbroken, clean, perfect. Eli felt his stomach drop. There it was. Leah said, "What?" He pointed. "That?" Victor stepped closer. "That's corrosion protection." "Yes, so?" Eli looked at the drawing. The original plate bonded directly to prepared metal. Patrick folded his arms. North Star's installation is approved. Maybe. You keep saying maybe. Because I haven't measured anything. Eli looked at the maintenance manager. Do you have a bonding meter? Victor said, don't tell my staff how to do their jobs. The manager ignored him. Yes, 5 minutes later, the reading came back. The maintenance manager stared at the instrument. Leah asked, bad? He tested again. Then a third time. He looked at Eli. Way outside spec. Victor stepped forward. That doesn't explain 3 grounded aircraft. Eli nodded. No. Victor blinked. Again, Eli had agreed with him. Eli pointed toward the plates. But it gives us something common. Mara asked, can it be corrected? Yes, how? Using the approved airframe preparation procedure, then reinstalling and verifying the path. How long? 1 aircraft? Yes, Eli looked at the manager. The manager said, 40 minutes if we document everything. Victor shook his head. We are not returning an aircraft to service based on 1 measurement. Eli said, he's right. Victor stared at him. Eli continued. Correct the installation, then run normal checks. If faults remain, keep troubleshooting. Mara looked at her watch. 10:08. The replacement contract expires at noon. Victor said, exactly. Mara looked at him. I wasn't helping your argument. Victor went quiet. Mara turned to the maintenance manager. Correct aircraft 1. Victor started to object. She raised a finger. Document every step. Manufacturer procedure only. Nothing improvised. The manager nodded. Yes, ma'am. Mara looked at Eli. You observe. Eli frowned. I can work. You haven't explained the accident. No, then you observe. He wanted to argue. He didn't. Understood. For the next 34 minutes, Eli stood beside the tool cart and watched. Leah and the maintenance manager cleaned the required area, verified the surface, reinstalled the plate according to approved procedure, checked the electrical path. The reading fell inside limits. Then they repeated it. Good. Then they checked adjacent paths. Good. At 10:44, the manager signed the maintenance step, ready for ground power. Victor folded his arms. This proves nothing. Eli said, correct. Victor glared. Leah almost smiled. They connected approved ground power. Systems came alive. Displays lit. Checks began. 1 warning appeared. Then cleared. Another system cycled. Normal, the control test started. Everyone watched. Channel A. Pass, Channel B pass, synchronization, pass, no fault. Nobody spoke. The manager ran it again. Pass. Mara looked at Victor. Victor's mouth opened. Closed. Patrick Sloan from North Star looked at the floor. Eli checked his watch. 10:51. Mara said, start it. The manager hesitated. We need flight crew. Victor answered quickly. Our chief pilot isn't here. Leah said, Sam's in hangar 4. Victor turned. Sam is scheduled for charter. Charter canceled. Weather, Mara said, get him. Victor looked at Eli. This isn't over. Eli nodded. I know. And he did know. 1 good ground test could be coincidence. 1 aircraft could have 1 fault. The other 2 could be different. The title people would later tell about that morning would make it sound easy. As if Eli walked onto a field, touched 3 machines, and performed a miracle. That wasn't what happened. There was no miracle. There were procedures. Measurements, records, checks, waiting, repeating, and a growing sense that the problem was bigger than 1 bad installation. At 10:58, Chief Pilot Sam Ortega entered the hangar. He was 50, broad shoulders, silver hair. He looked at Eli, then at Victor, then at Mara. What did I miss? Mara pointed at Aircraft 1. Can you perform a ground run? Sam looked at the maintenance manager. Aircraft released? For ground run only. Then yes. Eli stepped back. Sam entered the cockpit. Leah stood fire watch. The hangar doors were fully open. The aircraft was moved to the designated run area. Everyone cleared. At 11:04, the first engine started. The sound rolled across the ramp. Workers came out of hangars. Office windows filled with faces. The second engine followed. Rotor blades began turning, slowly at first, then faster. The grounded helicopter that had sat dead for 7 months came alive beneath the gray Oregon sky. Eli watched the rotor. He felt something in his chest he had not felt in years. Not pride. Not yet. Recognition, a machine doing what it had been built to do. Sam completed the run. No warning, no control fault, no synchronization issue. He shut down. The rotor slowed. Mara walked toward Eli. 1, Eli nodded. 1, 2 others. Yes, can you tell whether they have the same problem without moving them in here? Eli looked at Theo. Theo already knew. Bring the meter. At 11:12 they inspected aircraft 2. Same modification, same coding, same bad bonding reading. Mara stared at the number. No, Eli said nothing. They checked aircraft 3. Same, Victor stepped back. Mara turned slowly. All 3? The maintenance manager nodded. All 3 installations exceed limits. Mara looked at Patrick. He raised both hands. This is an installation issue. North Star uses approved data. Eli asked, approved by who? Our engineering organization. Has Falcon approved the coding under that bonding point? I don't know. Mara said, find out. Patrick walked away with his phone pressed to his ear. Victor stepped toward Mara. Even if the installation is faulty, we don't have time to recover 2 aircraft before noon. Mara looked at him. Why does noon matter to you so much, the production slots? Yes, that's all. Is it? Victor's face tightened. Mara, she held his gaze. What? You know me. I thought I did. Victor's expression changed. Something close to hurt. Maybe real. Maybe useful. I've run this division for 5 years. And I'm asking a question. I protected this company. Then answer it. Victor looked around at the workers. This is not the place. Mara's voice hardened. You made it the place. Victor lowered his voice. I recommended North Star because they are the only supplier who can meet our fire season deadline. Do you have any financial relationship with them? No, the answer came fast. Too fast. Eli saw Mara notice. Then Patrick returned. His face had gone pale. Mara asked, well? Patrick looked at Eli. Then the aircraft. North Star Engineering is reviewing the installation package. That isn't an answer. No. Does Falcon approve the coding? Falcon's current service guidance requires a conductive bond at that point. Mara stared at him. And North Star? Patrick swallowed. Our field procedure may have applied protective coding across the interface. May have. Yes, across 3 aircraft. Apparently, Victor said, so we correct it. Mara turned. You told me they were dead. Based on the information we had. You told me 2 engineering teams agreed. They did. Teams you selected. Because that's my job. You told me to sign a $31 million replacement contract. Because we need aircraft. And the company selling me those aircraft installed the modification that grounded the ones I already own. Victor stepped closer. Mara, listen to yourself. You're building a conspiracy from a maintenance mistake. Eli spoke. He's right about one thing. Mara looked at him. Victor's face twisted. Eli continued. We don't know motive. Thank you, Victor snapped. Eli ignored him. But the aircraft still need to be recovered properly. Mara looked at her watch. 11:18. Can it be done? Eli looked at the maintenance manager. 2 teams? The manager nodded slowly. We could work aircraft 2 and 3 in parallel. 35 minutes? Maybe 40. Mara looked at Eli. That gets us to noon. Close. What about flight checks? Ground checks first. I asked about flying. Eli looked at her. She wanted certainty. He would not give it. If they pass every required ground check, then a qualified pilot can perform the authorized flight check. Could they fly before noon? Could? Yes. Yes, will they? I don't know. Mara exhaled through her nose. Victor laughed bitterly. Wonderful. $31 million on I don't know. Eli turned toward him. No. Victor stopped. Eli said $31 million is what you spend when you don't know. The maintenance floor went silent. Mara looked at Victor, then at the aircraft. Two teams. Victor stepped forward. I object. Noted, this is unsafe. Eli said, then help make it safe. Victor stared. Eli continued. You're director of aviation. Victor said nothing. Use your people. Nothing. Check every sign-off. Victor's jaw worked. Mara watched him carefully. Finally, Victor said fine. At 11:22, the ramp turned into controlled motion. Not chaos. Eli would not allow chaos. Neither would Sam Ortega. Aircraft 2 entered one maintenance position. Aircraft 3 another. Technicians opened access panels. Tools were counted. Procedures were pulled up. Tasks were assigned. Mara tried to hurry them once. Eli stopped her. Don't. Her eyes flashed. Excuse me? Don't rush them. You have 38 minutes. They have the time the job takes. You just said, I said they could. Are you lecturing me on my own flight line? Yes, Victor almost smiled. Mara stared at Eli. He held her gaze. Then he nodded toward Leah, whose hands were inside aircraft 2. She hears you say 38 minutes. She starts thinking about the clock instead of the work. Mara looked at Leah. Leah was pretending not to hear. Mara stepped back. Fine, Eli softened his voice. Thank you. That surprised her more than the challenge. At 11:27, Theo approached Eli. He carried a brown file envelope. I found the receiving logs. Eli looked at it. Don't give me anything you're not allowed to. I'm giving it to Mara. Mara joined them. Theo handed her the envelope. 3 control modules billed. Yes, 1 shipping record signed by Victor. 2 show North Star field delivery. Physical receipt? None. Mara opened the file. Where are the units? Unknown. Victor saw them from across the ramp. He walked over quickly. What is that? Theo answered. Receiving history. Victor looked at Mara. That isn't relevant to getting aircraft flying. Mara said, maybe not. Then why are we discussing it? Because I paid $1.2 million for parts nobody can find. Victor's face reddened. North Star's inventory process is a mess. That's not fraud. I didn't say fraud. Victor looked at Eli. He did. Eli shook his head. No, you implied it. I asked where the parts went. Victor stepped closer. You think you're enjoying this? Eli frowned. What? Standing here, making everyone look stupid. No, come on. Victor lowered his voice. You were nobody this morning. Now the billionaire is listening to you. Eli's expression did not change. Victor continued. You like that? Eli looked toward aircraft 2. Leah was torquing hardware while another technician read the procedure aloud. My daughter thinks I fix doors. Victor laughed. What? That's how much I care about titles. Victor's smile vanished. Eli turned back. I don't want your job. Good. I want you to do it. Victor walked away. At 11:31, Eli's phone buzzed. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the school number. He answered. This is Eli. Miss Mercer? It's Dana Garner. Nora's teacher. His stomach tightened. Is she okay? She's fine. Eli exhaled. Okay, I'm calling about this afternoon. I'll be there at 4. That's actually why I'm calling. Nora is worried you won't. Eli looked around the flight line. She told you that? She asked 3 times whether parents can attend by video if they miss the meeting. His throat tightened. I'll be there. I told her you said that. Good, Miss Mercer. Yeah? She has had a difficult year. I know. She's finally settled. I know. Whatever is happening at home, Eli looked at the eviction notice still folded in his truck beyond the security fence. She told you? Not directly. She notices everything. Most children do. Eli closed his eyes. I'll be there at 4. That's all she needs today. He hung up. Mara stood a few feet away. He had not noticed her. Your daughter? Yeah, problem? No, Mara looked at him. You don't sound convinced. School meeting. Go. Eli blinked. What? Go to the meeting. It's 4. Then why are we discussing it? We aren't. Good. She started walking away. Eli said, Mara. She stopped. Thank you. She nodded once. Then said, don't thank me yet. Why? She looked at Victor. Because I just asked finance to pull 5 years of North Star payments. At 11:34, the first complication arrived. Leah shouted from aircraft 2. Stop. Every nearby technician froze. Eli walked over. What? She pointed toward the removed mounting hardware. Crack. Eli leaned closer. A small fracture ran from one hole in the plate. The maintenance manager cursed under his breath. Mara approached. Can it fly? Not with that plate. Replacement? Theo answered. None in stock. Victor folded his arms. There's your answer. Mara looked at Eli. Can we use the plate from aircraft 1 as a pattern? No. Can it be repaired? Not before inspection and approval. What about fabricating one? No, Victor said, so aircraft 2 is done. Eli stared at the cracked plate. Before noon had just become nearly impossible. Aircraft 3 could still make it. Aircraft 2 could not. Unless he looked toward the salvage cart. Where are the removed North Star parts? Theo pointed toward a storage area. Why? Didn't aircraft 1 have an earlier plate replaced during troubleshooting? The maintenance manager searched his tablet. Yes, when? February. Why? Damage during removal. Disposed? Theo shook his head. Quarantine shelf. Victor said, if it was removed for damage, it's unusable. Eli looked at the record. What damage? The manager scrolled. Surface finish. Crack? No. Deformation? No. Dimensions? Within spec. Eli looked at Theo. Find it. Victor said, this is desperation. Eli nodded. Yep, Mara glanced at him. You're admitting that? Of course. Why? Because the clock doesn't care about my pride. Theo disappeared into parts storage. 4 minutes later, he returned holding a tagged metal plate in a sealed bag. The maintenance manager inspected it, then measured it, then checked the removal note. Surface coating damaged. Eli almost laughed. Mara said, what's funny? That's the part we need removed. The damaged coating. The very thing that had caused the bad bond. The maintenance manager looked at the plate. Structurally, it's fine. Can you approve it? After inspection and refinish per original spec. Do it. Victor said, Mara. She turned on him. What now? You are allowing a terminated contractor to direct your maintenance department. Eli interrupted. I'm not directing anyone. Victor pointed at him. You said do it. To the person authorized to decide. Mara looked at the maintenance manager. Who's responsible for airworthiness here? The manager answered. I am. Are you doing anything you consider unsafe? No. Anything outside approved procedure? No. Anything because you're afraid of me? The manager hesitated. Mara's voice softened. Answer honestly. No. Then continue. Victor shook his head. This is insane. Mara looked at him. No, Victor. She pointed at the 3 aircraft. Insane was paying for parts that never arrived while preparing to cut apart the machines they were supposedly meant to fix. Victor walked away. At 11:41, aircraft 3 passed its electrical bonding check, then its control system check. Aircraft 2 received the inspected replacement plate. Mara stood beside Eli. Your old notebook. He looked at her. What about it? You opened directly to that page. Close how? My father wrote it. He worked on the HX-9? Early program. So your family built these things? Eli smiled faintly. No, you know what I mean. He worked systems integration. And you followed him. For a while. Why did you really leave? Eli watched aircraft 3. You don't quit asking. No. Useful quality? Usually, Eli put both hands in his pockets. Prototype 4 made a hard landing during high-altitude testing. Pilot error? Partly mechanical? Partly your fault? No, Mara waited. Eli continued. A control warning occurred earlier that day. And? Management wanted the schedule kept. Did you object? Yes, they flew anyway? Yes, then? Hard landing. Nobody died. 2 people injured. Mara looked at him. What did they ask you to sign? Eli turned. How do you know they asked me to sign something? Men don't erase 10 years from a Ursum because nothing happened. Eli looked away. They wanted the maintenance record rewritten to make the warning appear after the flight, not before. Mara's expression hardened. You refused. Yes. And they fired you? No. What happened? They made staying impossible. That's firing with paperwork. Pretty much. Did you sue for a while? And? Rachel got cancer. Mara's face changed. Eli's voice stayed even. Everything else got small. I'm sorry, she fought 18 months. Your daughter was? 5 when Rachel died. Mara looked at the paper helicopter hanging in Eli's truck beyond the fence. So you stopped flying. I stopped almost everything. Why come back here? I needed work. That's all? That's usually enough. Mara looked toward the helicopters. And you never told anyone. What would it change, this morning? Nothing. It would have changed whether Victor fired you. Eli smiled without humor. Then maybe I learned the right thing by not telling him. Mara almost responded. Then Aircraft 3's first engine started. Everyone turned. 11:44. Second engine. Rotor turning. Sam Ortega sat at the controls. The maintenance manager watched instruments from outside. Aircraft 3 completed the ground run. No fault. Sam shut it down. He climbed out. Clean? Mara asked. Can it fly? Sam looked at the maintenance release. After the required check. Which is? Short hover and local circuit under maintenance test authorization. How long? Sam looked at Eli. Eli shook his head. Don't answer based on the clock. Sam nodded. 10 minutes minimum. Mara checked her watch. 11:46. Aircraft 2 still had not started. The replacement contract representative approached Mara. Miss Ellison. She turned. Patrick held his phone. North Star needs a decision by noon. Mara stared at him. You are still asking me to sign? I have an obligation to communicate the deadline. Your company may have grounded the aircraft you're offering to replace. That hasn't been established. Then maybe your company should stop selling for 15 minutes and start explaining. Patrick stepped back. Mara looked at Eli. Would you sign the replacement contract? He laughed once. Not because it was funny, because the question was absurd. It's not my money. I'm asking your judgment. I'd wait. Even if we lose the production slots? If aircraft 2 and 3 recover from the same installation problem, you don't need the slots. And if they don't, then tomorrow you negotiate from a weaker position. That's expensive. Yes, Mara looked at him. You make difficult choices sound very simple. No. Eli shook his head. I just don't pretend they're easier because money is involved. For the first time that morning, Mara smiled. Barely. Then Leah shouted. Aircraft 2 checks good. 11:48. Sam looked at his watch. Mara said, Go. Sam pointed toward another pilot. Jen takes 2. I'll take 3. Eli stepped forward. Wait. Everyone stopped. Victor, watching from near the hangar, laughed. Now what? Eli looked at the maintenance releases. Aircraft 1 hasn't had the required flight check. Mara frowned. It ran. Not the same thing. We need all 3 flying. Then all 3 get checked. Sam said we only have 2 maintenance pilots on site. Mara looked around. Get another. Closest is 25 minutes. The clock showed 11:49. Victor walked closer. That's it. Nobody answered. He smiled. You can't do it. Eli looked at him. Victor pointed toward the 3 helicopters, 1 flight crew short. Mara's face tightened. Victor continued. You all let this man create a spectacle, and now we're going to lose the North Star slots because everyone wanted to believe in some miracle mechanic. Eli looked at Aircraft 1, then at Sam. Sam looked back. He knew. Theo knew too. Mara did not. Victor definitely did not. Sam asked quietly, Current? Eli nodded. Medical? Yes, recent enough? Barely. Sam looked at the aircraft. You know this airframe? Eli almost smiled. Little bit. Mara looked between them. What are you talking about? Sam answered. He can fly one. Victor barked a laugh. No, Mara looked at Eli. You fly? Yes, helicopters? Yes, HX-9? Yes, how many hours? Eli hesitated. Victor said, here we go. Eli answered, just under 4,000 total rotorcraft. Mara stared. On the HX-9? About 1,100 including test time. The maintenance manager slowly lowered his tablet. Leah whispered, you're kidding. Theo smiled. Victor's face went blank. Mara said, you were a test pilot too? Maintenance test pilot. That's a pilot. Yes, you left that off your Ursum too? It was a short Arsum. Mara actually laughed. One sound. Then the seriousness returned. Sam pointed at aircraft 1. You comfortable? Eli looked at the helicopter. For 6 years he had avoided this exact question. Comfortable? No. He remembered Rachel standing at the edge of a flight line years ago, covering her ears as he lifted a prototype into a hover. He remembered Nora as a toddler pointing at him through a fence. He remembered hospital rooms, funeral flowers, a storage box filled with flight helmets and old badges. He had told himself leaving aviation was practical, then necessary, then permanent. Maybe it had only been grief. Eli looked at the aircraft. Yeah, Victor stepped between them. Absolutely not. Mara turned. Reason? He isn't employed as flight crew, Sam answered. We can authorize him under maintenance test procedures if credentials and currency verify. His history includes an accident. Eli's voice hardened. Careful, Victor looked at him. You said it yourself. I wasn't flying. Still part of the team. Yes, then maybe you're not the person we should gamble with. Eli stepped closer. This is not a gamble. Victor pointed to the aircraft. You want to put $28 million in the air based on a theory. No. Eli's voice was calm. We put aircraft 1 in the air because licensed maintenance personnel inspected it, corrected a documented defect, ran required ground tests, signed the maintenance release, and a qualified pilot will fly the approved profile. Victor said nothing. Eli continued. That's the difference between your way and mine. Victor's eyes narrowed. What difference? You keep asking people to trust conclusions. Eli pointed toward the aircraft. I'm asking them to verify work. Sam nodded once. Mara looked at the maintenance manager. Can Mercer legally fly the check? Credentials verify. Yes, verify them. Theo had already started. Done. Mara turned toward Eli. Your decision. He looked at his phone. 11:51. A message from Nora. Don't forget. Eli put the phone away. I'll fly. The next 8 minutes would be retold badly for years. People would say, Eli Mercer jumped into a dead helicopter and somehow knew exactly what to do. That was not true. He took his time. He walked around aircraft 1. He checked the maintenance release. He reviewed the work. He discussed the flight with Sam. He verified weather. He inspected the aircraft like the clock did not exist. Because once a rotor left the ground, the clock truly did not matter. At 11:54, Eli climbed into the cockpit. The seat felt familiar. Too familiar. His hand rested near the controls. For a moment he heard Rachel. Not a ghost. A memory. Her voice in their kitchen. You don't miss the job. I don't. You miss the machine. Maybe, same way musicians miss a piano. I don't play piano. You know what I mean. He did. Now Eli fastened the harness. Outside, Mara stood with her arms folded. Victor stood farther back. Theo watched from the hangar door. Leah grinned like she was trying not to. Eli began the authorized startup. The aircraft came alive. Systems normal. Warnings clear. Rotor speed stabilized. Sam's voice came through the radio. Mercer, you good? Eli answered. Good. You haven't done this in a while. I noticed. Sam laughed. Take your time. Eli raised aircraft 1 into a low hover. Nothing dramatic. Just a few feet. The wheels left the ground. Mara's face changed. There it was. One of the helicopters she had ordered destroyed that morning was flying. Eli held the hover. Checked response. Moved slowly forward. Backside stable, then he climbed for the short maintenance circuit. At 11:56, Aircraft 3 lifted with Sam Ortega. At 11:57, Aircraft 2 lifted with Jen Park. 3 helicopters. 3 rotors turning against the Oregon sky. Workers lined the hangar doors. Phones appeared. Someone cheered. Then another. Mara did not. She stood perfectly still. Watching, Victor looked as if someone had removed the ground beneath him. Patrick Sloan whispered something into his phone. Theo folded his arms. Look at that. Leah stood beside him. Did he know? Know what? That all 3 would work. Theo smiled. No. Then how was he so calm? Theo watched Eli's helicopter pass overhead. Because calm isn't certainty. At 11:59, Eli brought Aircraft 1 back toward the pad. Sam followed. Jen followed. 3 helicopters hovered briefly across the flight line. 3 machines marked for destruction. 3 machines that had been called uneconomical, obsolete, unreliable, and dead. Eli touched down. 11:59 and 31 seconds. Nobody spoke until the rotors slowed. Then the ramp erupted. Not wild, but loud. Applause, shouts, mechanics hitting each other on the shoulders. Leah was crying and laughing at the same time. Theo just nodded. Eli shut down. He stayed in the cockpit a few seconds longer. His hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something he had locked away too long. He looked down at them. Grease in the lines, old scar across one knuckle. Same hands. Different life. Then he climbed out. Mara walked toward him. Everyone watched. Eli expected questions. Maybe praise. Maybe anger. Instead, she stopped in front of him and said, I owe you an apology. Victor called from behind her. Mara, she did not turn. Eli removed his headset. You don't owe me anything. Yes, no, I had you escorted out. Victor did. I allowed it. Eli looked at her. Mara continued. I looked at your clothes, your badge, and your job title and decided they told me what I needed to know. Eli glanced at the aircraft. You had a lot going on. Don't make this easier for me. He almost smiled. Okay, Mara looked toward the 3 helicopters. How much did you just save me? Eli answered. Ask Finance. Finance did. 20 minutes later, the first number came back. The North Star replacement agreement. $1.2 million. Canceled. The salvage contract. Canceled. Expected resale and restoration value of the recovered Falcons. 21 to 24 million. Avoided emergency leasing, possibly another 8 to 12 million. But those numbers became secondary when Finance found something else. Payments North Star had billed Ellison Ridge for 3 control modules. Only 1 could be located in shipping records. None could be confirmed inside the aircraft. Then there were consulting charges, expedited engineering fees, special diagnostics, after-hours support, freight, storage, field service, millions of dollars, all approved through Victor Kane's division. At 12:27, Mara called him into the conference room. Eli did not want to attend. Mara insisted. So does legal. Victor entered without his jacket. His face had lost color. Mara sat at the head of the table. General Counsel sat beside her. Finance opposite. Patrick Sloan had been asked to remain on property. Theo sat near the door. Eli stood in the back. Victor looked at him. This is because of you. Eli shook his head. No, you couldn't leave it alone. No. Victor laughed bitterly. At least admit it. Eli looked at him. The helicopters were still broken before I arrived. Victor turned toward Mara. What is this meeting? Mara slid a document across the table. North Star paid a consulting company called Kane Aviation Strategy $680,000 over 3 years. Nobody moved. Victor stared at the page. Mara continued. The registered owner is your brother. Victor's mouth opened. That's not. Your brother lives in Arizona. Mara, he is a dentist. Silence. Theo looked down. Finance continued. Payments increased whenever Ellison Ridge approved North Star service work. Victor looked toward the door. General Counsel said, "Don't." Victor stopped. Mara's voice remained controlled. "I asked you this morning whether you had a financial relationship with North Star. I don't. Your brother does. His business is separate from me. His dental practice?" Victor said nothing. Mara continued, "We also found emails forwarded from your company account to his." Victor's breathing changed. Internal aviation budgets. Nothing. Fleet replacement schedules. Nothing. Copies of North Star bids before competing vendors submitted theirs. Victor looked at Eli. "You think he's some hero?" Mara said, "This isn't about Eli." Victor laughed. "Of course it is. No, he's standing right there. Because he found what you were paid not to notice." Victor slammed a hand on the table. "I kept this fleet safe." Mara did not move. "I made hard calls. Yes, I cut accident rates. Yes, I built this operation. You helped. I gave 5 years to this company." Mara's voice softened. "Which is why I trusted you." Victor stopped. For the first time, he looked less angry than tired. "I didn't ground those aircraft. No one said you did. I didn't sabotage anything." Eli believed him. That mattered. Mara looked toward Eli. He spoke. "The North Star modification caused the fault." Victor pointed at him. "Exactly," Eli continued. "I've seen nothing suggesting Victor physically caused it." Victor lowered his hand. Eli looked at Mara. "Don't accuse him of what the evidence doesn't show." Mara nodded. Victor stared at Eli. Confused, maybe ashamed. Eli continued. "But somebody approved invoices for parts that aren't here." Finance said, Victor did. Somebody directed independent engineers using maintenance records that listed replacements which may never have occurred. Theo said, Victor. Somebody pushed a replacement aircraft contract from the same vendor. Mara finished, Victor. Victor sat down. His shoulders lowered. For a moment nobody spoke. Then he said, "You don't understand." Mara replied, then explain. Victor looked at the table. North Star paid referral consulting fees. To your brother. Yes, for what? Market analysis. Mara waited. Victor rubbed his face. They were going to sell new aircraft anyway. That isn't an answer. We needed replacements. They weren't dead. I believed they were. Did you? Victor looked at her. I believed this fleet was becoming a financial hole. And North Star paid your family when I spent money with them. Victor's eyes filled. Not tears. Anger, desperation. You know what I made here? Mara's expression hardened. Choose your next sentence carefully. Victor ignored the warning. I managed $86 million of aviation assets. I answered calls at 2 a.m. I handled crews, accidents, insurance, regulators, pilots, weather, contracts. North Star offered consulting work through a separate company. Because Ellison Ridge was their customer. I earned it. No. Mara's voice cut through the room. You earned your salary. Victor went silent. Mara leaned forward. You earned your bonus. Nothing. You earned my trust. Victor looked at her. But money paid by a vendor whose contracts you controlled was not yours to earn. General Counsel closed the file. Mr. Kane, your employment is terminated for cause effective immediately. Victor's face went blank. You cannot be serious. Mara said, your access credentials are revoked. Mara, company devices stay here. You need me. No, fire season is coming. I know. You have no aviation director. Mara looked toward the 3 Falcons visible through the glass. I have aircraft. Victor stood. Security entered. For 1 second, Eli remembered walking across the ramp that morning with a guard beside him. Same direction. Different man. Victor looked at Eli. You did this. Eli shook his head. No. Victor laughed. You keep saying that. Because it's true. You think you're better than me? No, then what? Eli looked at him. I think you kept taking one more step, because every step made the last one harder to admit. Victor's anger disappeared. That landed. Eli continued. You probably didn't plan to end here. Victor swallowed. No, most people don't. Security waited. Victor looked at Mara. For a moment, she looked hurt. Not cold, not powerful, just betrayed. Then Victor left. The investigation took months. The consequences came one at a time. North Star Rotor Solutions lost Ellison Resource Group as a customer that afternoon. Mara froze $7.4 million in pending invoices. A forensic audit found $2.3 million in charges that could not be supported by parts receipts, labor records, or approved engineering work. North Star eventually repaid $5.1 million through settlement and insurance recovery. Its regional service authorization was suspended while the manufacturer investigated the faulty installation procedure. Victor Kane lost his position immediately. His unvested company compensation, worth $840,000, was canceled. Ellison's lawyers filed a civil claim seeking recovery of vendor-related payments. Federal investigators later reviewed the undisclosed consulting arrangement and invoice records. 9 months after the morning the helicopters flew, Victor entered a guilty plea to one count involving commercial bribery and falsified procurement records. He received 22 months in federal custody and was ordered to repay $612,000. Patrick Sloan was not charged. But North Star terminated him after internal emails showed he had hidden questions about the bonding procedure rather than delay the fleet replacement sale. Theo Brandt became interim parts control manager with authority to reject direct delivery exceptions. Leah Torres was promoted to lead technician. Sam Ortega became acting director of flight operations. And Mara Ellison did something that surprised the entire aviation division. She gathered everyone in Hangar 2. No stage, no cameras, no press release, just employees. Mechanics, pilots, ramp workers, dispatchers, office staff, facilities crews. Eli stood in the back beside the same toolbox he had carried out under security escort. Mara walked to the front. I made a mistake. The room went quiet. She continued. Actually, I made several. No one moved. I believed expensive reports because they were expensive. A few mechanics looked at each other. I believed titles because titles are convenient. Her eyes found Eli. And I stopped asking questions because the answers coming through my organization were neat. She paused. The truth was not neat. Theo folded his arms. Mara continued. 3 aircraft were nearly destroyed because people who raised concerns were ignored. She looked at Theo. That includes part staff. Then Leah. Maintenance. Then Eli. And one man who technically wasn't supposed to be looking at the aircraft at all. A small laugh moved through the hangar. Eli looked down. Mara did not laugh. I cannot repair trust with a speech. She held up a folder. So we're starting with policy. Every aviation technician received authority to file an independent safety or procurement concern without routing it through their department head. Parts control became independent from flight operations. Vendor approvals required dual review. And no component billed above $50,000 could be paid without physical receiving verification. Then Mara looked at Eli. Come here. He shook his head. A few people laughed. Mara pointed. That's not a request. Eli walked forward. She handed him a folder. He looked at it. What is this? Employment offer. He did not open it. Mara frowned. You're supposed to read it. I know how employment offers work. Do you? More laughter. Eli opened the folder. Director of Fleet Reliability. Base salary, $218,000. Annual performance bonus. Full benefits. Flight qualification reinstatement program. Flexible scheduling. Training budget. Relocation assistance. He closed the folder. No, the hangar became silent. Mara blinked. No, you're negotiating. Yes, good, she almost looked pleased. What do you want? Eli glanced at Leah. Then Theo. Then the mechanics. Not director. Mara frowned. Why? Because you already have good people. That isn't what I asked. I want lead reliability inspector. That pays less. I know. Why? Because I want to work on machines. You can work on machines as director. No, directors say that. Then they get spreadsheets. Several mechanics laughed. Mara tried not to. Failed. Fine. Eli continued. Leah's team gets the recovery bonus. Mara looked at Leah. For what? They recovered the aircraft. You found the problem. They did the work. Leah looked stunned. Mara nodded. Done. Theo gets authority over receiving. Already done. Sam decides flight matters without finance override. Sam raised his eyebrows. Mara looked at him. Within safety policy. Sam nodded. I'll take it. Eli continued. And I leave at 3:30 on school days unless something is actually on fire. Mara stared at him. 3:30. Yes. You want a $200,000 aviation position with school pickup hours. Correct? Anything else? 4 weeks vacation. 3, 4, 3.5. 4, Mara stared. Eli waited. She sighed. 4. Then maybe. The entire hangar laughed. Mara shook her head. Maybe? Eli smiled. I need to talk to my daughter. Mara pointed at the folder. Take it before I reconsider every decent thing I've done today. At 3:38, Eli drove away from Ellison Ridge. He had changed clothes. The toolbox sat behind his seat. The employment offer rested on the passenger side. So did the eviction notice. One problem solved. One still waiting. He reached Nora's school at 3:56. 4 minutes early. Nora was waiting near the office. The moment she saw him, her whole face relaxed. That mattered more than 3 helicopters. More than applause. More than Mara Ellison's offer. More than being called a pilot again. Nora ran toward him. You came. Eli crouched. I said I would. You smell weird. Aircraft, you were working on helicopters? Something like that. She pulled back. Did you fly one? Eli stared at her. Who told you? Mrs. Garner. How would Mrs. Garner know? Someone put videos online. Eli closed his eyes, of course. Nora grinned. 3 helicopters. Apparently, everyone says you're famous. I'm not. You have 12,000 views. That's not famous. 14,000 now. Nora. She laughed and grabbed his hand. Come on. Meeting, the school counselor talked about Nora's progress. Reading scores up. Math strong. Science excellent. Fewer anxiety episodes. More friends. Better attendance. Then next year. Same teacher group. Same support counselor. Same building. Nora looked at Eli every time someone mentioned next year. He knew what she was asking without words. Are we staying? After the meeting, they walked toward the truck. Nora climbed in. She noticed the white eviction envelope. Her smile disappeared. Eli sat beside her. Dad, I know. Are we moving? He picked up the envelope. From the hangar apartment. Her eyes filled. But my school. You aren't leaving your school. How? I got offered a job today. Because of the helicopters? Pretty much. Is it good? It's good. Are you taking it? I wanted to ask you. Nora frowned. Why? Because they want me around helicopters again. She stared at him. You like helicopters. I used to. You still do. Maybe you watched videos sometimes when you thought I was asleep. Eli looked at her. What videos? The old ones. He said nothing. Nora continued. Mom was in some. His throat tightened. You saw those? Yeah, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me you could fly? Fair question. Eli smiled. Maybe we're both bad at telling things. Nora looked down at the paper helicopter hanging from the mirror. Did Mom like when you flew? She worried. Did she hate it? No. Then why did you stop? Eli looked through the windshield. Children crossed the parking lot. Parents waited. Normal afternoon. Normal lives. I think I was scared that if I went back to anything from before we lost her, it would feel like leaving her behind. Nora was quiet. Then she said, That's silly. Eli looked at her. She shrugged. You tell me she's still my mom even when I'm having fun. Yeah, so she's still your wife even if you fly. He looked down. 9 years old. Different socks. Missing front tooth. and somehow carrying the clearest answer he had heard in years. That's pretty smart. I have responsibilities. He laughed. Right. Nora touched the employment folder. Take the job. You haven't seen the salary. What salary? Exactly. Does it mean we stay? Yes, then take it. Eli started the truck. Nora grabbed his sleeve. Wait, what? Promise? He looked at her. No more moving. I can't promise never. Her face fell slightly. He continued. But I can promise I'm going to build something here. For us? For us. She thought about it. Okay, then she held out her pinky. Eli wrapped his around hers. Okay, the next morning Eli returned to Ellison Ridge at 7:10. Not as a contractor. Not yet as an employee. Just to answer Mara's offer. She was already in the hangar. Of course she was. Aircraft 1 stood behind her. No red cover. No destruction mark. A fresh maintenance tag hung near the cockpit. Returned to service. Aircraft 2 and 3 were undergoing deeper inspections before operational release. Mara looked at Eli. Well? He handed her the signed offer. 4 weeks. She checked. 4, 3:30, unless something is actually on fire. Correct, reliability inspector. Lead, yes. She closed the folder. Welcome to Ellison. Eli looked at his temporary visitor badge. Do I get another one? Mara handed him a permanent badge. The title read, Eli Mercer Lead Fleet Reliability Inspector. Below it was another line. Maintenance Test Pilot. Eli frowned. I didn't agree to that. Mara smiled. Consider it an open invitation. He looked at the aircraft. Maybe you really like that word. It's useful. Mara started walking away. Then stopped. One more thing. What? Your contractor invoice. What about it? Victor terminated you at 8:53. Yeah, payroll says that means you aren't entitled to the rest of the day's minimum. Eli looked at her. You're kidding. Mara's face stayed serious. Then she handed him another paper. A check. 8 hours, plus a contractor termination penalty, plus a one-time recovery bonus. $25,000. Eli stared. No, Mara sighed. Again? Too much. You saved my company more than $25 million. Your people did most of it. They got bonuses. Still, take the check. I don't need Mercer. What? I am a billionaire, I noticed. Let me win one negotiation. Eli looked at the amount, then folded the check. Fine, thank you. I'm using part of it to buy Leah better inspection lights. Buy your daughter something. She wants a desk. Mara blinked. A desk. New apartment. Right, maybe a bike. Buy the bike. She has a bike. Then buy a better bike. You don't have kids, do you? Mara stared. No. Yeah, he walked toward aircraft 2. Mara called after him. What does that mean? Eli did not turn. It means 9-year-olds don't need billionaire shopping advice. For the first time, the mechanics heard Mara Ellison laugh before 8 in the morning. 3 months later, fire season arrived. Aircraft 1 flew supply missions into Northern California. Aircraft 2 carried crews between remote bases. Aircraft 3 spent most of July supporting medical and evacuation coverage near large fire complexes. None repeated the original control fault. The North Star modification was removed fleet-wide and replaced with a revised installation approved by Falcon. Ellison Ridge's maintenance costs fell. More important, mechanics started speaking sooner. Problems became smaller because they were allowed to be problems before they became crises. Mara changed too. Not completely. She was still demanding, still impatient, still capable of destroying a weak presentation with 3 questions. But she started visiting parts control. She asked technicians what they thought before reading management summaries, and every new executive in aviation heard the same story during orientation. Not the internet version. Not the one about the single dad who magically resurrected 3 dead helicopters. Mara told the more uncomfortable version. I nearly destroyed $28 million of working equipment because the person with the lowest status badge in the conversation saw something the people with the highest status badges missed. Then she added, Your job here is not to protect your answer. Your job is to protect the truth. Eli hated when people told him she said that. It sounded too dramatic. He preferred the hangar. He preferred tools. He preferred Nora waiting at 3:45 beside the school entrance. Their new apartment sat 12 minutes from Ellison Ridge. 2 bedrooms. Small kitchen. A balcony facing west. Nora chose the room with the smaller closet because its window looked toward the mountains. Eli bought her a desk. Not an expensive one. A sturdy wooden desk they assembled together on a Saturday. Nora read the instructions. Eli ignored them. They installed one drawer backward. Nora caught it. Advanced father training? Don't start. You fix helicopters. Helicopters have better instructions. You didn't read these. That is unrelated. She laughed. On the wall above her desk, Nora hung 3 photographs. Aircraft 1. Aircraft 2. Aircraft 3. All airborne. Under them, she taped the eviction notice from the old hangar apartment. Eli found it there one night. Why'd you keep this? Nora looked up from her homework. Because we didn't have to leave Bend. We did leave the apartment. You know what I mean. He did. One evening in October, Eli came home at 4:17. Late, Nora was at the kitchen table. She looked at the clock. Something on fire? Eli put down his keys. No, 3:30, test flight. You said 3:30. I texted. I know. Then what is this? Accountability. Eli laughed. Where did you learn that word? Mara. Eli stopped. Mara Ellison? She came to school. What, career day? Eli stared. Why? I invited her. You invited a billionaire to elementary career day. She said yes. Of course she did. Nora smiled. She brought a helicopter. Eli closed his eyes. She what? It landed on the soccer field. Nobody told me. Surprise. Eli sat across from her. What did she talk about? Mistakes. That surprised him. Mistakes? She said being important doesn't make you right. Eli looked toward the window. She said that? Yeah, what else? She said Dad is annoying. Eli looked back. Nora burst out laughing. She did not. She did, exact words. She said, your father has a persistent relationship with inconvenient facts. Eli nodded. That sounds like Mara. Nora pushed a sheet of paper across the table. Career day assignment, my hero. Eli looked at it. At the top, Nora had written, my dad fixes helicopters. Below it, she had crossed out fixes. Then written, he listens to them. Eli swallowed. Nora watched him. Is it good? Yeah, you look sad. I'm not. You're doing the face. What face? The mom face. Eli laughed softly, then wiped one eye. Nora stood, walked around the table, wrapped her arms around him. Eli held her. Outside, the evening light turned the mountains orange. Far away, beyond the apartment buildings and trees, a helicopter crossed the horizon. Nora heard it first. She pulled back. Which one? Eli listened. The sound was distant. Steady, twin engine. Heavy rotor. He smiled. Falcon? One of ours? Maybe. Nora ran toward the balcony. Eli followed. They stood together while the aircraft moved across the fading sky. It became smaller, then smaller again, until only the sound remained. Nora leaned against his side. Dad? Yeah? Remember when I asked if we were staying? I remember. She looked toward the lights coming on across Bend. We are, right? Eli rested one hand on her shoulder. Yeah, this time there was no notice folded inside his truck. No temporary badge, no next town waiting. No promise he wasn't sure he could keep. Just Nora. A small apartment. Dinner still needing to be made. Homework on the table. And somewhere beyond the darkening hills, 3 helicopters that had once carried red X's were still doing exactly what they had been built to do. Flying.